Hey everyone, welcome to the EsportsNext podcast. I am thrilled to be joining as the host for season 3 along with my co-hosts. We are going to be interviewing speakers, sponsors, and attendees of the Esports Trade Association conference in Chicago. So if you're looking to understand who will be at the conference and what they're all about, tune in, come join us. All right. Wonderful. Well, welcome to another episode of the EsportsNext podcast. It is my pleasure to welcome Danielle Rourke. She is the Chief Technology and Innovation Strategist at Dell. She's speaking at our conference. Dell supports the esports industry in wonderful ways. And so we are just thrilled, Danielle, number one, to have you on the show today, but also to have you at the conference for people to come meet and learn from you.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be at the conference. It will actually be my first Esports Trade Association conference, so I am thrilled.
Fantastic. Well, I hear they get better every year. So
awesome.
It's the rumor on the street. So I think you're showing up at the right MVP. Would you agree or add context?
I would agree, and you're gonna love our jersey this year. So
fabulous.
We have a really cool custom jersey, and I think you'll really like it.
Another thing that makes me super excited.
Yeah, it's nice to take home. You'll be getting a note about your jersey soon and your gamer tag.
Nice. Okay, excellent.
Yeah, we instituted that last year. So for those who attended the conference last year, we're doing it again bigger and better with our jerseys. And so it's a really fun custom piece of merchandise that we love to provide to our attendees. Without further ado, Danielle, why don't you start us off with helping us understand what are some of the things that Dell is doing in the esports industry that is supporting the industry and supporting the community?
Yeah, well, obviously we have, the best brand of computers. It's the Alienware, at least in our humble opinion. But we're very honored to have so many pro teams, so many competitions and organizations utilize Alienware for their esports gaming needs, and any other needs that they have related to gaming. Or we have, schools that use it for artificial intelligence training, or for the GPU usage, or art and film schools. So we definitely are very, very proud to have the Alienware brand under that Dell Technologies umbrella. So that's kind of the first thing that you would think of when you think about how Dell supports esports, would obviously be with the hardware. But we also do a lot of really great programs and initiatives, especially around scholastic esports. So the first one that I would talk about is really geared towards helping young girls in 4th through 8th grades. It's called Girls Who Game, and it's an initiative started up in Canada, but has swept the US. So now we're doing it in multiple countries around the world, where school districts will have a champion, a teacher, a staff member, and they will help organize a group of young female identifying students who are interested in gaming or interested in technology. And they have an entire program that's essentially semester long. And each cohort will not only get the benefits of all 3 pillars, which are girl-centric community, real world implementation, and just applicability, and then also mentorship. So so in each cohort, each semester, these 4th through 8th grade girls will get that community of friends and peers that are interested in the same thing, and that like gaming and like technology, and see that it's fun and it's cool. And then they'll also get real world examples of how technology and how what they're learning could be put into play. So each semester they have to come up with a project that they build out within Minecraft for Education. And that goes in line with the UN sustainability goals. So they'll choose things like fresh water or, ending hunger or things like that. And they will build that into their world collaboratively as a group. And then at the end of the semester, they have to present that. They record their own videos, they make a talk track over it. And the whole while they're getting mentorship from female and male identifying people within the tech industry. So at Dell, at Microsoft, at Intel, who are co-sponsors of the program. So it's fantastic. We love it. At the end of each semester, the girls who have been in the program for more than 1 year, so maybe they've come back for their second cohort or their third cohort, they are able to participate in an esports challenge at the end where they use the design and build challenges within Minecraft for Education. And it's just this amazing day. We actually just had one this past weekend, and it's so incredible to see the girls get so invested, but also have that teamwork. And it's just wonderful, even to start at that young age. So that's
Wow.
one of the programs.
I think a shorter answer could be, tell me what Dell is not doing in the esports space. I think
Yeah,
that's
that
amazing all you're doing. That's fantastic.
it might be shorter. So we have other things. We actually have a Discord server that we keep up, and it's specifically for educators in esports, and it's K through 20, so K through 12 as well as higher ed. We have researchers out there. We have some students out there. We have people from industry, and it's meant to just be this really organic community where anyone who is involved in esports and education can come in and ask questions and share humble brags about their team, or get recommendations for job postings for a coach, or share opportunities they may have come across. We also have a couple different networking groups. We've got a K-12 esports networking group that really allows principals and teachers and administrators from school districts to come together and share their ideas and what they've done to put their programs together, what has worked well, what hasn't, what are the challenges that have come from IT around, port switching or not being able to use Discord because of age requirements, and, all of those different challenges. So it's really helpful to have those networks that can get together once a month and just kind of talk through a lot of those issues. We also have guest speakers in that program, as well as we run an esports research collaborative call every month. And that's a little bit more geared towards higher education, but it allows actual academic researchers that are doing the rigorous research studies with methodologies and standards behind them, but bring their expertise and bring that knowledge to the world of gaming and esports and help us create a more sustainable industry for, these oftentimes young people that are competing in the space, and make sure that it is something that's sustainable for them. Make sure that it's something that they're not going to need to worry about repetitive stress injuries or just mental or emotional stress. So it's so vitally important to have that research. So we want to help facilitate that in any way we can. And then finally, we do some really cool programs with different schools around our equipment, but bringing them to the schools. So there was we worked in tandem with UT Austin last year to open up an EDU gaming lounge on campus, right in the student union. So any student on campus could come in and play, but it could also provide a really high-end space with very premium computing devices for the esports team from UT Austin to practice and scrimmage and compete on. And we've also done a mobile gaming lounge that kind of looks like one of those pods, like if you've seen those pod trailers that people move their stuff in. So it looks like a larger version of that, but it expands out and opens up. So we can transport it on a trailer, like with a truck with a trailer, and bring it to a school and put it out in the parking lot. And it actually has, its own generator, its own internet. And so we can just put that in a space that's convenient for the schools. We've really been focusing on K-12 schools, and open it up and have, battle stations and laptops, and allow the students to come in and really experience what a high-end setup could look like, and then tie it back into their educational outcomes.
I have an idea. We have room for a trailer.
That's amazing. Like right now, it definitely is staying in Central Texas,
Okay.
for just for logistical purposes and reasons. We just launched it in March, actually.
Wow.
So they have it booked out all over Texas until the end of the summer, I believe. But we're hoping to expand it and possibly, do more in line with that idea.
Last time I made the request, we had robots walking around serving our drinks. Remember that, John?
I
That's
do. I do think
amazing.
a truck inside the big ballroom
Wouldn't that be
at
fun?
the Radisson Blue, I think that is a
There,
perfect solution.
we're
Yeah.
actually right next to a loading dock. We literally could bring it. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Actually,
I tell you what, I will talk. I will
why don't you?
find out.
Because that, is where our future is.
Mm.
And there, I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts. We're all going to have, well, I shouldn't speak, but definitely mobile is our future. And then there's just, it's
Yeah.
just so easy and convenient. But I remember learning 20 years ago, we're all going to be on our phones. And I was like, I won't be. And here I am. I'm definitely,
Uh-huh.
I have to like put my phone down to be present.
Yes.
I have to like,
Turn
and
the clock.
so, but I'm a fan of also the alien hardware myself and have
So
some.
thank you.
Yes, yes. And Dell was my first computer. My first very own computer was
Excellent.
Dell. I know.
Oh,
Wow. Brand
The one I
ambassador
bought.
there. Sounds like you get influencer marketing opportunity here with MVP.
Oh yeah, well, what can I
Yeah.
say here?
We'll see what we can do.
So, and I'm just wondering, is that all y'all do, Danielle?
that's a big chunk of it. I did leave out some curriculum. So we actually do have a curriculum that we worked on with one of our partners that we can give, and we do frequently give to our K-12 school districts that are customers of ours. Just a starting point. It doesn't have to be your entire curriculum. You don't have to stick to it 100%, but it brings in things like, how do you evaluate the hardware that you need? How do you think about costs for an esports program? How do you make sure you're staying healthy? How do you make sure that you're bringing in other real world examples and tying it to other career pathways besides just being pro? So we do have that. We also have a curriculum that we helped University of New Haven in Connecticut establish for a graduate program around diversity, equity, and inclusion in esports. So we're always coming up with new things. We're always being approached with new ideas. And we, as an education strategy team, say, sure, let's try it. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I love that. One thing I'm excited about for our conference is you are going to be speaking on our Scholastic panel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, obviously, Scholastic is all encompassing nowadays. You have all the different ways to learn that are incorporated with gaming. You have careers that the active gaming can set you up to take flight in after school. Obviously, there's the active competing, varsity teams and such. If there's one or two aspects of Scholastic esports that you are most passionate about, what are those things?
I would say the first one would probably be the fact that it can bring so many students together and give them a feeling of belonging and a feeling of, oh, I've found my tribe finally. There are so many kids out there who didn't do drama or didn't do band or weren't athletes in the traditional sense, with physical based sports. And so many students are just kind of there and they haven't really found that sense of belonging. But esports is an incredible tool because you don't have to be the tallest, you don't have to be the biggest or strongest, and female and male identifying can play together, and there's really a much more even playing field when you talk about esports and getting into it. So I think that's one of the things that I'm most passionate about. I've heard so many stories about students who just didn't feel like they belonged anywhere in their educational experience.
Yeah.
And once they found the esports team or the gaming club, they really felt like they found people who were interested in the same things they were and wanted to do the same things as hobbies. So to me, just anything that educational institutions can do to foster that sense of belonging and that sense of just being tied to a community, I think is an incredible thing.
Well, I think it's pretty powerful that I remember seeing a stat years ago. It was something like before high school esports had really taken off, it was really kind of getting started. There was a stat that 87% of high school esports players had not participated in traditional sports.
Mhm.
And if you think about the camaraderie, the friendships, the life skills that you learn just from being part of any team-based sport, whether that's digital or physical, these are skills and experiences and support that these kids are not receiving at all. And so just the act of including kids who aren't included otherwise could save a life,
Mhm. Mhm.
it can have that real impact. I know that you've had a little bit of a curvy career path, you could say, and that one thing that has really been the consistent pillar there has been your passion for gaming and experiences. Why don't you share a little bit about how you found your way into this space?
Yeah, it is a very winding path. But it's something that I actually do use to talk with students about a lot, because so many students, whether they're in high school or college, they don't necessarily know what they want to do when they grow up. And I tell them that that is okay, and that it doesn't have to be this one straight path, because so many of us, we went to school for something that we maybe aren't doing in our job, or something happened in society or in technology that created these new opportunities that weren't even there when we were in school trying to decide what we wanted to be. So I do talk with students about that a lot. Growing up, I loved video games. My dream job was to be a cinematics artist for Blizzard. I really wanted to be able to create those. OG Diablo fangirl here. But life kind of took me down a different path. I ended up having my son very early, ended up getting my GED, and then going to community college, and taking some other pathways just because of choices I had made in life, or scenarios that I had found myself in. And so I kind of once I started getting back, into college and into my working career, I kind of said, okay, gaming might just be a hobby for me. I may not be able to work in it, because during high school, I was actually pre-enrolled at an art institute for game design. And so
Mhm.
that was the path I was going to go down. Life changes and life happens and you adapt. And so then I started going down, okay, well, maybe I'll be a computer programmer, or maybe I'll be a quality manager for business, or things like that. So, ended up getting degrees in computer technology, as well as business quality operations and management, and a master's in IT. But then, worked all kinds of different jobs. I was, John, you and I were talking earlier, I was at a call center for T-Mobile for quite a while, and being, a technical rep and a retention rep. And then I got a job at Verizon Business as a test project manager. And so was, for anything in the communications industry, especially like landlines and things that businesses need to utilize, I was helping to run the tests on those systems and the new features, and, gathering requirements, things like that. And then I moved on to an accounting firm where I was a systems analyst and helped design some of the XML code that ran work papers for these accountants. And then ended up going to an agriculture company and was a business analyst for a few years, and then moved into a development manager role, managing, teams of people all over the world that were developing code for these systems that kept the agriculture plants running. And then I went to being at the University of Colorado in Boulder, and I was an IT director there for student information systems, learning management systems, online education programs. And then I got the opportunity to be here at Dell as an education strategist, which nowhere in the job description did it say must love games or must be a giant geek and be able to talk about video games. But what happened, and this is also something that I tell students, is that, keep your passions, keep your interests, but utilize them in a tactful, appropriate, respectful, professional way.
Mhm.
So, my example of that is I went in, to Dell headquarters to interview for this education strategist job, was really focusing on all of the work I had done in education and higher ed. And we went on a tour of the building, and there's an experience lounge down there in Round Rock. And one corner was devoted to gaming. And so they had Alienware setups with the RGB lighting and the
Cool.
gaming chairs and the 34-inch monitors. And, it was just amazing. It was this incredible setup. And so I asked, one of my teammates now, I said, oh, can you take a picture of me in this setup? Because I want to make my son at home jealous. And so she did. And, the hiring manager, who's our senior director of education strategy and my boss now, he was like, okay, so do you like video games? Is that an interest area for you? And that was the time that I tell students, like, that's your opportunity. Like, let your geek flag fly appropriately and respectfully and tactfully, but share your interests. And so I did, and shared that I had been a gamer geek since I was 11 years old or younger even, and was really passionate about it. And so he goes, all right, I may have a side job for you, like an additional kind of area I want you to focus on. And that's how I got involved in esports and education, and have loved it ever since. So it's so important for students and young people of all ages to know that you don't have to stick to one pathway. You can bounce around different industries, and you may still be able to come back to your passions.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is you, in that interview scenario you just talked about, you didn't lead with, I'm a huge gamer and I love to play games.
Yeah.
Because that's not nearly as relevant to, can you do this job, right? You led with your professional business experience and the capabilities, the skills that you've developed over time in your career. And then at the right time, you're able to add, which probably increased your value in their eyes. Hey, also, yes, I live and breathe this world, XYZ. That's something that we're really involved with here at ESTA, is helping to pair those professional business learnings, that expertise, that experience with people who love games. And sometimes we can lead with the loving games part, and we either haven't had the time or haven't had the focus on, wait a minute, there's an industry here that needs business skills. There's hardcore business skills that paired with gaming is great, but you can't just have the gaming without the professional business experience and expect this industry to really thrive.
Absolutely.
And I love, the humility of your journey, like, okay, so this is next. And, I remember, and in my journey, which had lots of paths as well, I always wanted to do something that got me to the next thing without being really attached. For example, working at the computer lab at college, where I could study and do my homework and, grow my skill set, versus, like I say lifeguarding, right? Like lifeguarding is more relaxing, and I did that too. But I did that earlier on as I grew into my professional development. Every job, it means something, from your blockbuster days to wanting to be a cinematic, designer.
Artist,
It's neat, that you stood on your course and doing what you love. And I think that, boy, if there's one thing the generation of hope can do, is just follow their dreams. And I've expressed that so many times when I guest speak at classes. And you'll be surprised that students look at you like, I can do what I love, really. And it's like, yeah. And then you'll be 10 times more successful. I mean, that's how you become an influencer. You're not going to work the nights or the long days on something that you're just not loving.
I absolutely agree. And, a couple of additions to that. I totally agree with everything you're saying, Megan. And I think on top, there are so many opportunities within every job, like no matter what you're doing, to find some kind of niche for your passion of it, and there,
Mhm.
there were jobs that I had that I just created games, and they weren't necessarily video games, but I made games for my team to play or for my peers to play so that we just kind of enjoyed it a little bit more. And, using something from your past, from your passion to make your work life better, I think is so valuable and something that they don't necessarily teach you in school, but you kind of start to pick up on it after you've had so many items of work experience. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I think that it's really cool as well for students to take a look at what those jobs are. And that's something that I speak to classes about too. I say, go out to Hitmarker, go out to Indeed, go out to LinkedIn and just do a search for esports or do a search for games, or search for your favorite gaming company and take a look at the job roles that are out there. And it's so beneficial in so many different ways. One, the student will then see, okay, what are the roles in gaming? What are the different jobs that I could potentially pursue that maybe already align with something I'm already studying or something I'm already passionate about? What are the skills that are required? What are the applications or experiences I should have to prepare for a job like that? But then also, so many jobs nowadays actually will post salary ranges, and they can take those back to their teachers or their parents or anybody who's potentially kind of arguing with them, saying like, you can't play video games for a living. You can take those job postings back and say, okay, yeah, maybe I can't play games for a living, but I can make them, or I can make music for them, or write for them,
Right.
or help market them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how many different touch points there are in this industry, that you could be doing something that has nothing to do with video games, but still work for a team or for a company
Mhm.
that's in the space. Whether we have plenty of members who are lawyers, who get to work in this space, but they're
Yeah.
focusing on their legal expertise and they're adding that, but they get to be around some really cool stuff that they have a strong passion about just because they work at an esports team or something like that. What are some of the questions you get? I'm curious whether it's from teachers or whether it's from parents who don't quite yet understand the benefits of gaming and the opportunities that it does actually give students.
A lot of the times there's still very much the stigma of, why should we be paying tax dollars or paying tuition dollars for my child or my student to go play video games? They think it's just purely a recreational thing. They think it's blowing off all of their other homework. And so with those folks, I will talk with them about the experiential learning that you spoke to earlier, John. The fact that these students are figuring out how to put together events, how to handle logistics and logistical challenges like,
Yeah.
hey, we don't have enough electricity, or the internet's too slow, or, et cetera, all of the things that can come along with an esports tournament or event. And they're also learning how to talk to businesses, to go out and, ask for donations for prizes or for peripherals to use, or, things like that. Like, they are absolutely gaining real world experience that they can use in a myriad of business opportunities and a myriad of environments and scenarios that they may find themselves in, whether they work in the gaming industry or not. Those are all skill sets that are really going to help them move forward. So I talk with parents and teachers about that one quite a bit, and about those educational outcomes that can come out of it. We also talk a little bit about, there's still also very much the stereotype of, well, they're just going to be by themselves in a dark room, eating Cheetos and drinking Mountain Dew or something.
Right.
And when you start to, honestly, one of the biggest ways to kind of mitigate that or fight against that preconceived notion is taking them to an event and having them
Right.
see an in-person event, and the excitement and the chatter and the audience members watching and the skill that's required on so many of these games. Like, I am hot garbage at League of Legends. Hot garbage. I enjoy watching it. I love the Arcane series on Netflix, which great business tie-in, by the way.
Yep.
But I know that I personally do not have the skill to play that particular game.
Mhm.
And I think having the people who don't recognize, no, this is a social activity. This is
Right.
something that they learn from. This is something that they have to be around their peers and competing, and so many similarities to traditional sports that they're getting the benefits of. So, really having them see that in person and understand that, no, it's not an isolated thing where people are mushrooms in their basement.
Right. Good point. I'm curious as we look towards the conference, a lot of people are going to be coming. They're going to be very interested to meet with you and our other speakers. And we love facilitating opportunities for our attendees to really engage with speakers, where some other events, it's like, oh, this person flew in and flew out, and, don't look them in the eyes and ask their agent for their autograph. Um, for people who are listening to this episode and considering coming to the conference, who are the type of groups and the type of people who you are looking to connect with or are beneficial to your goals in your business?
Yeah, there are really so many people. Obviously, the other folks on the Scholastic Esports panel, I'm actually thrilled, like Danielle Johnson and Sorry Kaitlin, like I've worked with them and talked to them so many times before,
Yep.
but I've never met them in person. So I'm incredibly excited to get that opportunity to meet with them. They are absolute giants in the field of Scholastic Esports, and the work that they've done and the students that they've inspired are really honestly just inspiring to me, the amount of impact that they've been able to have. So definitely have a bias towards the scholastic and educational folks that are going to be there.
Yeah.
But I'm also really looking forward to meeting with others in the industry. Steve Isaacs, I was actually just on a panel with him a couple weeks ago, and he's just so insightful and knows so much of what's going on there with Epic and what the creators are asking for.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to meet with others at the conference that are, in the software side of it or in the team promotion side of it, to kind of fill in any gaps that I'm missing from being, an employee of a hardware vendor. Just really getting that complete picture of what's out there and the supports and the companies that are involved in this space.
So Danielle, should we send a few people with the U-Haul so you can bring your mobile pad?
I think that would be a great opportunity, and I will definitely go back and ask my folks if there's any way we can get that mobile gaming lounge out of Texas by August. I don't want to promise anything because chances are probably a little slim, at least for this year, but I will definitely go ask.
When you look at where we're hosting the conference, the oddest thing is it's so rare in Chicago to literally have this, you could almost land a plane next to our ballroom. It's just this great big loading dock. And I'm thinking, like, what are we going to do that? It would be so fun to have that and like the Red Bull trailer or a taco truck, Chicago style street food and the mobile lounge. So please consider it. We would love to host you. And we thank you so much for all that you have done and that you're doing for, obviously hardware and girls and beyond.
Thank you. It's really fulfilling, and I feel very grateful and very fortunate to be able to kind of take this passion from when I was a little girl and wish I had some of these programs and
Totally.
companies thinking about me when they designed products. So I'm just so grateful for the opportunity and so grateful to Esports Trade Association for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's really cool to see so many people in the community impacted by what you personally and what Dell are doing in the space. For people to connect with you before the conference in ways that would be relevant in the ways that you'd like to, what are some ways that people can either follow you or Dell before we meet together in person in Chicago?
Yeah, absolutely. So, at Dell Tech is on Twitter, and Dell Technologies on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter as Hi Ed Danielle. So it's HIED Danielle. And post way too often about gaming and esports out there. So just forewarning. But then I'm also on LinkedIn, and I love making connections via LinkedIn. A lot of people who I'm very happy and privileged to call friends now, especially in the esports space, started off as LinkedIn conversations. So I definitely would look forward to connecting with anyone out there.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for speaking at our conference in August, and really appreciate you joining us today on the EsportsNext podcast.
Thank you so much.